In another of his executive orders, President Trump has revoked sanctions on Israeli settlers accused of violence in the occupied West Bank. The sanctions were imposed by the Biden administration in response to attacks on Palestinians. Biden had repeatedly urged the Israeli government to hold the extremists to account. The sanctions targeted numerous individuals and settler organizations, freezing their U.S. assets and barring Americans from dealing with them. The Palestinian Authority says Trump's decision to lift the sanctions will incite violence against Palestinians. Fawez Gerges, professor of Middle Eastern politics and international relations at the London School of Economics, joins us now. Fawaz, how do you assess the implications of Trump's recent policy reversal on Israeli settlers?
Well, first of all, we are not surprised. Donald Trump has assembled a national security team that fully supports the settlers in the occupied and the Palestinian occupied West Bank, and also supports the far-right hardliners in the Benjamin Netanyahu coalition. In fact, the challenge, the overarching aim of the settlers in Israel and their Trump supporters is to annex the occupied West Bank in the next 1 or 2 years. So far from supporting a Palestinian state, the national security team that President Trump assembled basically may and could provide the pretext to help the settlers annex the entire West Bank, and not just to build new settlements on occupied Palestinian territories. So this is it could be a fundamental transformative change if and when the Trump administration agrees to the annexation of the occupied West Bank.
I'm curious, just to be clear, are you suggesting that the Trump administration is consciously trying to do that?
Oh, absolutely. This is an open secret. This is not my words. In fact, the debate on the annexation of the West Bank has been taking place for almost a year. Some of Donald Trump's major financial donors in the United States, I'm talking about tens of millions of dollars, have made it very clear that they would like him to accept the potential annexation of the West Bank in the same way that he agreed to Israel's annexation of the Syrian-occupied Golan Heights. I don't know if you remember, and viewers remember. So people are talking about, will Donald Trump support the establishment of an independent and viable Palestinian state? I, in fact, turn the question upside down. Will there be any West Bank to really recognize as part of a Palestinian state if and when the settlers and their supporters in the United States basically coalesce in order to really annex the West Bank? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's on the table. It's being discussed. There's a debate raging.
How might Trump's reversal on sanctions impact the Israel-Hamas ceasefire, which is in a delicate place right now?
Well, I don't think it will have major implications. I think the big question about the ceasefire, will the ceasefire, or is the ceasefire a temporary one? Will Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas go through the second and third phase? Benjamin Netanyahu has made it very clear that it's not the end of the war. This is a temporary ceasefire. He would like to get the hostages who are still alive back and then resume the war against Hamas. The question is, will Donald Trump accept Benjamin Netanyahu's decisions or potential decision to resume the war in Gaza? My take on it is that Donald Trump played a major role in bringing about the ceasefire by exerting pressure on Netanyahu. And this tells you about the contradictions of Donald Trump's statement and positions and vision. On the one hand, he basically pressured Benjamin Netanyahu to accept the ceasefire. On the other hand, he reverses the sanctions of settlers, far-right, hardline settlers who have been attacking the Palestinians and burning their crops and their homes and their properties.
Fawez Gerges, does lifting sanctions on violent settlers undermine U.S. credibility in the peace process in general?
Well, I'm sorry. I know your question is really well meant. What credibility? I can tell you, as a student and as a scholar of the Middle East, the United States has no credibility, no moral authority. It has lost really all kind of credibility in the past, 15 months. But the big question is, how will America's allies, particularly Saudi Arabia and Egypt, view Trump's decision? In particular, Donald Trump's priority is to, as he said last night, he said he would like to see normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel in his second term. But Saudi Arabia has made it very clear it will not normalize relations with Israel unless Israel recognizes a Palestinian state or a clear path to the establishment of a Palestinian state. So the implication, my take on it, is that we're not going to see, more likely, we're not going to see any kind of normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel, because that's really what Donald Trump would like to see in the next year or so.
Fawez Gerges from the London School of Economics. Many thanks to you, sir.
Thanks.